Okay, so for the next DIY Christmas upcycle, I have for you this Christmas ball ornament from the Merry House collection at the Dollar Tree. I have a sanding sponge, I have some paint, a paintbrush, and a vinyl decal that I printed off my Cricut. So if you want to see how all of these come together, all you have to do is stay tuned. So to begin, I'm going to remove the hanger and toss that to the side. And then I'm going to try my hands at removing that little metal ornament hanger because I want to repurpose it. Well, that was actually easier than I thought. I was able to manipulate that little metal hanger without any problem at all. So now I'm going to try to see if I could remove um, this. I want to say it's burlap because that's what it kind of feels like. But then again, it could be some other kind of material and it just stiffened, with the glue that they put underneath Mod Podge or whatever. And I'm going to try to peel it off in one piece if I'm lucky enough. And I'm just going to continue having at it and going around until I'm able to manipulate that entire sheet and take it off the ornament. And just like that, I was able to take the entire thing off in just one piece. And so now we're ready to move on. So now I'm just going to have at it with my sanding sponge to get rid of some of that texture and grittiness that was left behind before moving on. So here I'm just wiping it down with a regular paper towel to remove any of that debris that was left behind from the sanding so that we can apply an even coat of paint to it and there'll be no mishaps underneath. So I'm just going to go over it sparingly with this white paint and let it dry, and if need be, apply a second coat. So here it is after applying a second coat and allowing it to completely dry. And so now we're ready to apply the vinyl. And so we're just going to take the vinyl and we're going to be adhering it to our ornament ball. After removing that transfer from its backing, it's now time to apply the decal to the ornament ball simply by trying to center it to the best of my ability and assuring that I'm pleased with the proper placement, because once I allow it to adhere to that ornament, if I try to peel it back up, it'll probably peel off some of that paint. So after pressing it down with my fingers, I'm now going to be going over it with my little scraping tool to ensure that the decal adheres. Now that my image is transferred, before repurposing that metal hanger that I took off at the beginning, I'm simply going to be going over it first with some of this Mod Podge to seal in that vinyl and give it a polished look. So after giving that Mod Podge plenty of drying time, I'm now ready to proceed to the next step, which is to repurpose that metal hanger and put it right back in its original place. So simply by adding some hot glue and adhering it back down to the ornament. And I'm just going to be very ginger with this hot glue, and I'm going to try not to burn the crap out of my fingers because this is metal and hot glue, and sometimes that could be a recipe for disaster. So I'm going to try my best to center it and place it in the same spot it was before. So now that I repurposed that metal embellishment, I'm going to be recreating another hanger using this red jute. And this came in a 3-pack from the tool bench section at Dollar Tree. It came with a red, a green, and a tan. And I hardly get any use out of the red one, so I'm happy to be using it for this project. So I'm just going to be snipping a piece off. Notice I'm not measuring, I'm just eyeballing it here, and I'm going to be folding it in half. And once I have it folded in half, I'm going to feed it through the hole in the ornament, pull it out from the back, and then feed it back through that loop and pull it through. And it's going to create a loop onto the ornament itself. And then I'm going to tie a knot on the tip, and that's going to create my hanger. After knotting off that top, you now have the perfect hanging mechanism from which to hang your ornament ball. And the beauty of these ornaments is that not only can you hang them from your tree, you can also sit them out on a tiered tray, you can sit them on a shelf. The opportunities are limitless. And here's just a reminder of the before, how it looked when we first purchased it, as opposed to how it looks now that we upcycled it. Comment down below which one was your favorite, and I hope I inspired you to create one of your own. So from the Dollar Tree, you're going to want to grab yourself a pack of these here stencils from Crafters Square, and you shouldn't have a problem finding it. You should be able to locate it in with the seasonal decor, and this is the one that has a second stencil in the back, and then it just says Santa please stop here in the front. And then I have one of these bamboo cutting boards, and this I was able to locate in the kitchen section, some paint, and a pack of Jot stencil sponges. So to begin, I'm going to start by removing that shrink wrap from my cutting board. And I purchased this cutting board a while back ago. These are those bamboo cutting boards that everybody was going Google Gaga over. And it took some time for my Dollar Tree to get them in, but they are available online. And it is the same finish on the front and the back, so it doesn't matter which side you work with. So after selecting which stencil I'm going to be working with, I'm simply just going to be removing it from its packaging. And I decided that I'm going to be stenciling this deer or doe, whichever the case. And I'm going to be dabbing some paint on it using those Jot stencil sponges. So now that I have my stencil positioned where I want it, I'm simply going to be adding my paint with my little Jot stencil sponge, and I'm barely going to be dipping it into my paint. And once I dip it once, I'm going to be dabbing it on a paper towel, as you see here, and then I'm going to be dabbing it onto that stencil. And less is more. You can always apply more, but you can't take away. And the idea here is not to have it seep underneath and bleed on that stencil. So I'm just going to continue pouncing on that stencil. So once I'm satisfied with that paint application, I'm ready to remove my stencil and reveal my image. And it's just that simple. I'm going to lift it up as such, and there you have it. So now that I transferred that deer, I felt like he was a little bit lonely and he needed a friend. So after wiping down my stencil, I'm going to be flipping it over to the back side and creating another deer. So first I had it that way, and now I'm turning it the opposite way. Following the same procedure as before, I'm going to be pouncing around on the stencil as such until I'm satisfied with the application, and then removing the stencil to reveal my image. And now that I'm satisfied with my image, I can move on, and I think I'm going to be adding this sleigh to the board as well. But before moving on to that, I'm going to have to wipe down my stencil first. So once I position that sleigh where I want it, I'm just going to be dabbing my sponge over it with the paint, just like I did with the deer, until I get the application that I'm satisfied with, and removing my stencil as well. Okay, so after pouncing that sponge around for a bit, I think I'm satisfied with the coverage now, and now I'm going to be lifting it to reveal the image, and this is what it looks like. Okay, I felt like it was missing a little something, so I decided I'm going to grab another one of my stencils from the Crafter Square, and this is the one that says Let It Snow. And I think I'm going to be using this star here, and then maybe a little snowflake. I was going to be using the star from the original stencil, but then I decided that that other one looked much better, and I'm just going to be filling in some of the gaps. Okay, so I'm ready to reveal my star, and I'm liking it so far. Now I think I want to put one on either corner of those, on top of the deer head. So I think I'm going to use the smaller version of that same star. And now I'm just about ready to reveal this star as well. And there you have it. So I'm liking this snowflake right here, and I think I'm just going to add it to the lower right hand corner as such, and I'm just going to give it a few pounces as well. So because it wouldn't be symmetrical if I left it as such, I'm just going to repeat the same snowflake on the opposite corner. So I noticed that the stencil had these dots, and I guess they're supposed to be like snowballs. And so I put one next to each snowflake, and I think I'm going to continue adding more of those dots sporadically throughout the board just to fill in some of the empty space. So after filling in some of the gaps with those little snowballs, I decided I was going to add this ho 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 to the center there. And I kind of wish I didn't now. In hindsight, if I had to do it again, I would have left that part out. Sometimes less is more. But nonetheless, I'm going to work with it. And so now I think I'm just going to go over it lightly with my sanding sponge just to get rid of some of the sharpness and give it kind of a little rustic flair. So this is how it's looking now that I've taken it down as much as I could with that little sanding sponge. And I'm still thinking it needs a little something extra, so I'm going to be adding some of this jute rope to it. And I'm just going to wrap it around the top portion, trying not to hide those stars. I'm just going to go around like maybe 2 or 3 times and glue it on the back. So from there, I'm just going to go ahead and add a bead of glue to the back of that board, and I'm going to sit that jute cord right inside that bead of glue, and I'm going to wrap that jute around the board like 2 or 3 times, and then I'm going to cut it off to the back so that it ends right where we started it off with that little bead of glue, if you follow me. And this way, we won't have any of that showing in the front. It'll be to the back. So after taking it around the board around 3 times, I'm just going to end it right where I started it, and I'm just going to add another little bead of glue right above that first bead of glue, and I'm sticking that jute right inside that glue and just holding it there for a second. So here's a look at what it looks like after I tacked that jute around the back. And so I decided that I wanted to add one of these pre-made bows. Only thing, these bows are a little bit too big for this board. So I kind of took it apart, and now I have to kind of manipulate it to where it looks like a bow again, only smaller. And to do so, I'm going to be tying a piece of this white jute around the center and cinching it, tying it in a knot, cutting off the excess, and then shortening those tails. So now I'm going to go ahead and secure my little bow down to my decor board, and I'm just going to add a little bead of glue to the center and tack it down right on top of that jute cord that I placed around the board. And the beauty of this ribbon is that because it's wired, I was able to rouge it on each side so that it didn't cover up that jute. And I'm overall pleased with the way that it looks. And I now have myself another piece of decor to add to my seasonal holiday decor. And I hope I was able to inspire you to create something as well. Comment down below which one of these crafts was your favorite. And I will talk to you in the next one. Happy crafting.